Think we are live. Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from my office with the amazing Carrie Donegan, who I'm really excited to have you hear from her today, a dear friend of mine and business colleague. And this is our second week doing this 20 Seconds of Courage conversations. I'm really excited about it. I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I hope that it's being of service to you, and I hope that you'll get involved in the conversation if there's anything that you want to hear of that we haven't covered yet. I'm open to suggestions, and I'm always excited to have a conversation with you about different things that can be of service to a great number of people, because I think, like I've said in the past, I think a lot of times it's easy for us to think that we're alone in how we feel, how we think, and really the purpose, one of the big purposes of this series that I've decided to do is to remind us that we're not alone, that we're more alike than we are different, and that the conversations and questions that we have are not just the ones that we have in our head. A lot of people have the same questions, and I'm tired of feeling afraid of asking them, right? So that's the purpose of this. So some of it's about some of your suggestions, and some of it's really my curiosity too. So with that, I'd like to introduce Carrie Donegan. I'm going to have her tell us a little bit about herself. She's a very fascinating woman, so go ahead.
All right, thanks, Tracy. I'm thrilled to be here. Tracy is one of my dearest friends and colleagues, and I respect her immensely. And it was a real honor for her to invite me into this conversation. And we're hoping to have a little bit of fun with this and also be as informative as possible. We're going to talk about financial literacy today. I also happen to be a financial literacy teacher. And so this is an exciting opportunity for me to be able to work with so many different young people in the world today, because we want adults to grow up understanding money in a way that's not scary, or they don't have to feel stupid or illiterate, but that they can actually be part of a community that creates wealth and abundance and growth. And that's what really made our country great from the very, very beginning. So it's exciting for me to up-level this to adults as well. And the one thing that I really want everyone to understand is that financial literacy shouldn't make you feel stupid. It should make you feel empowered. And just because no one ever taught this to you in school doesn't mean that somehow you're deficient, or you have to pretend that you know something. We're trying to open this up, right? Remove the veil and take off any of the discomfort that comes from feeling insecure about something that we're all supposed to know, but really wasn't taught in school. A lot of our parents really weren't taught it. And with just some really basic rules, you're going to see that you can change the way you look at your money, and you can make it a much, much more positive experience for you. So my background is as a business owner. I started my business in 1996 for the first time, actually. I've had 3 businesses. They've all been international, and I've learned a lot about money and investments, the difference between a consumer mindset and an investment mindset over time. I also have a background in international affairs, a 30-year career in international relations with Southeast Asia and China. And so I like to kind of combine those 2 skills, and I've been able to apply that then to my current doTERRA business, which is a partnership with my husband and also a partnership with my team leaders. And I stress the partnership part because one of the things that the author Simon Sinek talks a lot about is the fact that if you trace all achievement in the world, all of it, it has to do with community and relationship, that there is no single example of achievement created by an individual anywhere. And so I think when we remove the pressure of it all has to come from me, and we pull into the we really see the power that can be created.
That's so awesome. I mean, I think that it's fascinating. So when you talk about financial literacy, like for me, when I think about financial literacy, like this is, and this is for anybody watching who doesn't feel literate in finances, you're not alone. I just really want to say that this is not something we're taught in school. Nope. I think like the extent of my financial literacy was like Don't spend more than you make.
Right.
Here's how to use your checkbook. Only use your credit card when you don't have the cash on you, but you actually have the cash to pay it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, and then there's the whole mindset belief system that comes along with money, because I think that we live in a culture and a generations before us where there was genocide, there was exile, there was depression, like the Great Depression type thing, not necessarily just emotional depression. I mean, we talk a lot about mental health these days, but I mean, like all of these things where there was lack, and there's this permeating mentality of lack in so much, in like 99% of the culture, right? They say the 1% and then the 99%, we're all living in this sort of lack mentality of there's not enough, there'll never be enough, I'll never make enough. If I have enough, like these are some belief systems that come up. It's also when I work with clients, like, and some of them were mine, you know, like I'll never have enough. If I have enough, it'll be taken from me. If I have enough, I won't be loved and accepted because then I'll be separate. People think like there's so money and finances it's such a loaded topic, Carrie.
Right.
And so I'm so grateful that we're opening this up to really make it practical and usable for people, because it's enough. Like it's time, like it's long overdue that we shift our paradigm and our consciousness around money. Like money is just currency, and currency is energy.
Yep.
And I think like in the cultures that are doing really well financially and people that are really succeeding in their businesses, their mindset it's time to turn that switch. And I think that a lot of us, we all have the switch. I just don't think we know how to access it yet. Right?
Absolutely.
So those are like my financial literacy was like, that was the extent of it. Like it was beliefs around money. Money's bad. People with money are evil. Like I know how to do my checks and this, and it was like, be responsible about money. And then it was like, get a job where you can have a 401k and you can have savings, right? Like get the traditional job. Now, you know me, I'm a creative being. Like I'm an artist at my heart. And so for me to have a 9-to-5 job sitting at there, yeah, I could do it. Was it fulfilling? Was it happy? No. I mean, I too have been an entrepreneur for 20 years. So for me, it's then there's another added component when you're running your own business, right?
Sure.
So this is like a wonderful conversation to open. We may have to do multiple videos, and especially those of you watching, I'm sure you're going to have more questions for Carrie, because she is an abundance of wealth of knowledge. And I love that she's taken the time to be with us today to really share as an educator, like, how do you define financial literacy? What does that mean?
Okay, this is awesome. I'm so excited to do this. One of the things that I realize is I have some visuals. Do you think I could share those?
Sure. Oh my God, bonus. We love that. I love Zoom.
I have something I could share if I'm permitted to share it. I think I am.
You should be allowed to share. Yes.
Can you see this?
The richest man in Babylon. I love you.
You love this? Okay. We're gonna have
great.
We're gonna have fun with visuals. Yay. All right, awesome. So what is financial literacy? Financial literacy is being able to be fluent in the language of money, right? It's really a language. And what I think is unfortunate as people, we think that the people who are in the 1%, or the people who have these big jobs in those big corporate buildings, right, in the penthouses, that somehow they are able to tap into something that the rest of us humans are not allowed to tap into.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
Like I wasn't raised to believe that I could put up a giant skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan and that was going to be okay, right? It was like, I was encouraged to do my best, to work hard, to be kind, to do things, but nobody ever said to me, girl, go build a skyscraper, right? And so was I just left out of the equation, or was the story never articulated to people? And it's interesting because being part of doTERRA has been such a blessing to me, because when I was invited by my high school to teach financial literacy, the first person I went to was Dave Sterling, the CEO of doTERRA. And I said, Dave, look, I know your number one thing is don't get into debt and build wealth. and it's okay to build wealth, which I really want everybody to understand that. People who are wealthy are the ones that have a lot of ability to make great change in the world. It's hard to make great change without a financial vehicle behind you. Okay. So don't ever think that money is negative. And I know you're going to talk about this in other segments as well. But he turned me on to this book. And I have to say, I had never read it before. So if you've never read it, you're not alone. And when I read it, I thought, wow, this is really life changing. So I just want to kind of go over with you some of the real key points that I learned in this text, and what I teach to everybody who's willing to listen. So the first thing that I thought was really, really interesting is we need to understand how to build wealth. Does that make sense? Okay. So do you know that wealthy people do different things than people who are not wealthy? You know, we have the same 24 hours in a day, right? But what are the wealthy people doing? They work just as hard and sometimes not as hard, right? And how did they acquire such great wealth? We're talking about amassing huge fortunes. Well, these are some of the things that I found really interesting. They exercise, all right? So ask yourself, do you exercise? They don't watch a lot of television. Sorry, I know people love their binge watching shows and things of this nature, but these are some of those characteristics that may be keeping us from achieving greater wealth. They accomplish some single goal. So they always have one goal in mind. And I love that Tracy is really focused on these, like this 20-second concept, right? That this is her goal, right? And within that goal, she has lots of different steps that she's taking to achieve that. But you have to have a goal, right? You just don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, today's Tuesday, today's Wednesday, now it's Friday, right? No. Every day has a goal. They've watched, they're mindful about what they eat. That's really, really important. They network. Okay. Now this goes back to what we were saying about achievement. You can't do this alone. No great leader, no great entrepreneur, no one who created a lot of wealth did it alone. And this is what I love. And we were just talking about this. 80%, I think that says 80% of rich people make happy birthday calls. Guess what Tracy had a couple of days ago?
My birthday.
Had a birthday. What did you get, Tracy, from my husband?
Fred Donegan called me and sang me happy birthday yesterday on the 23rd of September. Yeah.
And did he know that we were going to talk about birthday calls in our presentation? No, he didn't. But where's his mindset, right? Yeah. His mindset is on people, not profit.
And real connection.
Right? Real connection, not profits, people, okay? If you want to invest in something in the world, the human capital is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
All right. So some of the real basics, real basics. And I don't know if people do this or not, but you have to pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. So 10%, right? So this is one of the rules from the book. 10% of whatever you make, you just put away and forget about it. Just forget about it. All right. So if you earn $100, you really only earn 90. It's like, la, 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 la. I don't earn that other 10%. I'm paying myself, but I'm not touching it. I'm not allowed to touch it. It's like I'm my own employee. I gave it away and it's no longer mine. The mine who wants to spend things, right? So the other side of my personality that says, ooh, I have money and I have, bright, shiny objects that I want. Nope, that 10% is going away because that's going to start doing really cool things for us in our life. I love to look at a dollar this way. I don't know. Have you ever looked at a dollar this way?
Never.
Okay. So one of the things I recommend is that people actually take a dollar, all right, and get some really cool duct tape of whatever favorite color you have. And I want you to take your dollar and I want you to fold it up and then I want you to break it into 8 pieces, okay? You're going to break this into 8 pieces and you're going to put these little labels on it. And look at the first label, okay? So the first label is you're giving away. And I'm not yourself. You're giving it out into the world. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what that means and why that energy, she talked about currency as energy and flow, right? Mm-hmm. So money has a boomerang effect. What goes out comes back, but it picks up when it goes out, okay? You have to understand, just like something with kinetic energy, like a ball rolling down the hill, it's going to gain speed, right? Or just think about, like your favorite navy blue sweater. When you throw it out into the world, it's going to attract all kinds of like lint, right? So there's an attraction there. There's attractive energy in the world when you create energy and you put it out. So when you give it out, it's going to come back to you. We don't know how, we don't know when, but it always comes back, and it always comes back exponentially. You have to pay your taxes because we are a community, right? And this is really important that we all serve one another. It's not a political statement. It's just a fact. And all societies have been based on the fact that we all throw into a pool of money that supports the greater good, all right? We have to save money. Now, look, the money you give away is not the money that you're saving. The 10% I talked about is you're in savings. You're going to take another little piece of that dollar and you're going to invest it. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then you have all these things called wants, live, and needs. All right. And they're all different. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to actually live and survive, which is what most of us do. We use our money to survive. Who wants to live like that? Do you want to live like that, Tracy? In survival mode? No.
People live like that.
Right?
A lot of people live
like that.
And I find a lot of times people live like that, and they don't need to live like that, but that's the mindset that they're in that keeps them stuck there.
Keeps them stuck there, right? But you know what? We want things for ourselves, for other people, for our families, for our neighbors, for our country, for our goals, right? And then we have certain needs, things that we need to move ourselves forward, things that we need to improve ourselves. So there's all kinds of different ways, but every dollar that comes into your life has to be allocated in this way so that you really understand how to budget properly. So let's talk about the first part of it. Why giving? Did you know that if you give 10%, it's actually enough to make a difference? People usually give from their excess. They don't give from their want, right? So when I met David Sterling recently, he said to me, I'm so wealthy, I can no longer give enough money for it to hurt. Like it's just impossible for him to give enough money away. He said, so you know what I have a finite amount of that's really precious to me? Time. And so although he gives away a lot of money, giving 10% of his income doesn't affect him at all. That's but wonderful. Spending time, and what I thought was very poignant was at our team meeting, he actually spent a tremendous amount of time with us.
I know. That was,
and I thought, really, wow, really he's practicing what he preached a year ago. Without even saying it, I thought, he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. All right. It also makes you financially responsible, because when you know you can't just spend everything you have to be a little bit more mindful of the money you're spending and where it's going. Yeah. You get a chemical reaction from giving. It's called oxytocin, and your body is motivated to give, because the society works better when we help each other. And so you get a chemical reward every time you give something. Just think of the last time you actually did something for another person without being asked to do it, and how that made you feel. That's an actual chemical response. It protects you against kind of being greedy, because people who are greedy are focused on the wrong thing, and they're always going to feel a sense of lack, right? I have to hold on to it because I'm going to lose it. Never the case. And it keeps you grateful and humble, right? When you wake up in the morning, get into this habit of look at what I have and be thankful for it. Like I've never taken a trip to the moon, but I can actually tell you I don't wake up in the morning going, I've never taken a trip to the moon, right? And so many people wake up in the morning focused on what they don't have. My neighbor has a nicer car. My colleague has a better house. So-and-so got to go on vacation, right? Instead of saying, wow, I had a really great run yesterday, or I bought a really cool pair of shoes that I love, and I'm so glad I'm wearing them today again. And being grateful.
Melody Beatty.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Melody Beatty has a reading on gratitude, and one of the things she says is gratitude turns what you have into more. Yeah. And I think such a perfect thing here, because I think, like you said, we focus so much on what we don't have that we create more of that, because our thoughts expand our reality, like thoughts become reality. So I was just talking about this to Katrin, this idea that why spend time thinking about what you don't want instead of thinking about what you do want? If you're creating that through your thoughts, words, and actions, focus on what you do want, and gratitude turns what you have into more. And I think gratitude is something that a lot of people do, and yet I think there's still that sort of like, me, when they have that and I don't, you know, like that undercurrent of like, we got to
Like,
get,
yeah, like, oh, I'm so happy for them and their
like
new
art.
car.
It's not authentic, and it has to be
Right.
authentic, and it has to. And we talked about. I just talked about this with her. It's like it has to be about non-comparison. Like compare, and I wrote down on my board today. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Like compare and despair, or admire and aspire. And I think
I love
admiring and aspiring is the key for gratitude too, because like if you're still comparing yourself and wishing and hoping it was different, as opposed to I'm so grateful to know that this is possible for me too. Right? When I see somebody like that, that means I can do it too, because we're 99% the same. But we think differently. We think that person is special. I didn't get all the information and I won't ever have that. And so then we just go into that negative Nelly mode.
Right, exactly.
Back into the lack consciousness, you know.
Back into lack, yeah. So maybe one of the easiest habits to building wealth is just waking up in the morning and literally try to be as grateful as you can and see how long you can go without running out of things.
Oh
like,
my God.
just wake up in the morning and say, you know, I'm grateful for my eyes. I'm grateful for my breath. I'm grateful for my body that's working, my digestion, you know, like just go head to toe, be mindful of your physical health, your emotional health, your family, whatever it is that you have. I mean, all we have to do is turn on the news and know what other people don't have. So if you need a reminder, right? And maybe one morning, if you're not someone who's accustomed to this, maybe you can only get through 5 or 10 things. But stretch yourself. Like, can you go 2 minutes, 3 minutes? It's like doing push-ups, right? So you want to build up gratitude muscle.
Yeah.
And just see how this goes.
I love that idea. I think that, you know, a lot of times I'll work with clients and I'll say, you know, make a gratitude list, 10 items you're grateful for every day for the next 7 days. You cannot repeat one. And we keep it really simple, because a lot of people, you know, everyone else is, time is a non-renewable resource. And they're like, I don't have time to make a list, you know, but I mean, you guys, I've done this for 30 days. And like, it's come down to, I'm grateful for water. I'm grateful for potable water and flush toilets. I'm grateful for heat. I'm grateful for light. I'm grateful for the fact that I have a laptop with internet that I can talk to Carrie with, you know, like I think outside the box, you know, not just, you know, it's not just in this container. It's in your family. It's in, like you said, it's in your life. It's everywhere. There's so much to be grateful for.
Absolutely. That's the perfect thing. And if you learn nothing else from financial literacy and you learn gratitude, you're so far ahead of the game. It's a huge piece. It's a secret. It's a huge piece of why wealthy people can become wealthy. Now, are all uber wealthy people the most grateful people on the planet? Not necessarily. So that's a discussion for another day. And what I will tell you is all grateful people become wealthy, but not all wealthy people become grateful. All right. So there is a little bit of a difference there, but you know that this is key to building wealth, gratitude. So the other thing you have to do, and this is what Tracy said at the beginning, this is the thing I know. She said, I know I have to control my expenditures. I cannot spend more than I make. Right. So this has to do with a budget. This has to do with really being mindful of the money you make. I remember when I was first teaching financial literacy and I was reading this book, one of the things that they made a very strong focus on was the fact that when you work, most of those dollars don't belong to you. You're working for the electric company. You're working for your car bill. You're working for your student loan debt. You're working for your credit card debt. You're working for your food bill. You're working for your hairdresser who you have to pay to cut your hair. All of those things, right? So the other money that literally belongs to you is different. Just remember that again, community, right? You don't live by yourself. You rely on so many other people to survive. And so we have to pay those people and we have a responsibility there. So just make sure that you're not overspending. And that's a very, very easy financial rule to follow. One of the things I love that I learned through doTERRA is something called zero-based budgeting. I'd love to teach a whole class on this. And there's the bell. Sorry about that interruption. The most important thing to know about zero-based budgeting is that you have a certain amount of money that comes in every month, and do you follow every dollar? Now, I will give you an app because it's always fun to give everybody something for free on these calls. So I want you to go to everydollar.com or to the App Store and get the Every Dollar app. And what's cool about that is you can plug in what your income is every month, whether you're getting an income from a job, from an asset, from a rental property, from a stock dividend, wherever your money comes in. And then you're taking every dollar, I don't care if it's $100 or $100,000, and you're going to designate everything from giving, different types of spending. You're going to break it down, right, into a budget that when you total both columns, it goes to zero, right? So if I have $100 in, I've broken that $100 into $10 I'm giving away, $5 I'm giving to taxes, $10 I'm giving to food, whatever it is, until that dollar is gone. And then you're going to stick to that budget. Now, if life presents itself in a way where the budget no longer works, what's really cool about zero-based budgeting is for you to take money from the food budget and put it toward your travel budget. You have to understand that you're giving up food to accept greater travel. You cannot have both because you've zeroed out the amount of money that you have, and you have to honor your budget. Okay? You can't think of it as a binding thing that you're a slave to. You have decided to put your money to work for you in a way that keeps you out of debt and in a way that actually grows into an asset. So you don't want to be a thief and steal money from yourself. Does this make sense? By breaking your budget. When we break our budgets, we're allowing that other desire in our humanity to steal from us. Okay? You wouldn't let someone come into your house and take your piggy bank, right? But you allow yourself to steal from your own wealth by not being authentic and by not honoring your own budgets. So budgets can be very freeing because it shows you exactly what can and can't be done and where you want to go. You get to decide, okay? No one's telling you, but you get to decide.
And I think that if I can jump in here for a second, I think it's important to remember that this is, when I look at this, because we do something very similar to this, Jason and I, and there's a thing to remember that that's why it's important, and I want to talk about this in a little bit. Like, that's why it's important to have your money make money for you. Right. Have that, you know what I mean? Like, to have that money make money for you. And I think also in alignment with what you said about not breaking your budget and not cheating yourself or being a thief of yourself, the way I've always looked at it is like learning, it's training your mind and your emotions and your belief systems and your conditioning to understand that you're a trustworthy being. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because I know for me, I live a lot in the emotional, mental, the mind body area, so where the money comes in, it always feels like it's separate. Like people talk about, we want to have physical health, we want to have mental, emotional, spiritual health, but they don't talk about financial health. And I think that's why I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation, because I think it needs to be talked about more. It has to go hand in hand, because it's so, financial health is part of what helps you live your vision in life. It's part of what helps you contribute to community and to the bigger picture of things. And I think that when we've so separated it, and a lot of times you'll look at a zero-based budget and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna, or you say, I'm making this money. I talk a lot about the law of attraction and the law of reciprocity and, universal law around money, and that, money is, and currency is energy. And, if I say to myself, I'm going to take on this client, and the money that I make from this client is going to go to purchase, let's just say I'm going to use part of this money to purchase the massage. Let's just say that I wanted a massage for my self-care and I've been wanting it, and that's what I was going to do it. And then the money comes in and I don't buy that massage for myself. Energetically, I am teaching, I'm telling myself I can't be trusted because I said I was going to do that. My word wasn't strong enough. And then I used that money for something else instead of what I needed. And then, money is like any other relationship. Having a relationship with money is like having a relationship with a person. Like, you have to show up and do what you're going to say eventually, or it's not going to reciprocate, right?
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So be true to your relationships, right?
Yeah, for sure.
True to your budget. Yeah. In all walks of life. Okay. So here's the fun part, right? Take what you have. It doesn't matter how much you have. Okay. So people think they have to be rich to invest. It's so not true. It's so not true. And it's really important that you put anything that you save to work and put it to work for you. Do not be a slave to your money. Make your money a slave to you. And I love that. I mean,
love that.
It's biblical. I mean, this goes back for generations and centuries and cultures, and you find this everywhere, that if you're not working for your money, if your money's not working for you, you're working for it. And that's not a good relationship, right? And we can look at some of the things that we use, right? Investments, stocks, real estate, gold, asset, businesses, and when we're talking about businesses, doTERRA is a tremendous asset with a incredible rate of return. I cannot tell you any other investment we have ever made that has had a greater return than what we've experienced in the last 6 years in doTERRA.
It's so true.
I have no other example of how quickly we've been able to get a return on that investment, how consistently we've been able to get a return on that investment, and how increasingly that return has been traditionally for 6.5 years.
And
right?
I love that with doTERRA, it's like they took the ceiling off. It feels like, and I remember going to the first convention 2 years ago thinking like, oh my God. And I mean, this was real for me, Carrie, because I've spent my money story. Everybody has a money story.
Right.
My money story was always like, I won't have what those people have. Like, I was separate. It was like, I think I might have even said this to you after the convention. Like, it always felt like I was standing in outside of a glass room, and there was no door for me to get in. And I just was watching like a kid watching a fish tank, like all the fun, all the people that have the resources to do what I want to do, to give the way I want to give, to be of service the way I want to. I can't get into this room. There's no door. Right. And when I went to the doTERRA convention for the first time in 2017, I think it was 2017, and I was there and I saw what the potential, and it was like the door, like there wasn't just one door. It was like the glass doors just opened and they were waiting for me to walk in. And this concept of, and I love that they're debt free and that they're looking to make you debt free too. Like that's their focus. Like, I've never heard of another company that does that.
No.
Ever. That's looking to the people that want to partner with them to help them be free to give. Is mind-blowing. I have chills all over me right now. Like, it's mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a whole nother conversation.
A whole other video. Yeah.
Like, we can't even go there because it's too big. It's too big of a conversation. So once you make your money, one of the other things that wealthy people are very, very good at is insurance, right? One of the things they talk about in this book is guard your treasure from loss. Look, things are going to happen in the world. One of the things that I teach in my class all the time is, guess what? For every boom market, there's a bust, right? They're talking in the news right now about a recession. And what I tell people all the time is, whatever you believe is true, okay? So if you believe you're in a good economy, you're in a good economy. People make money in good economies and in bad economies. All right, that's 100% true. So get out of your mind that your ability to grow wealth has anything to do with current climate or the politicians that are in office or where you live in the world or how you grew up or what your education is or how much money you have in the bank right now. Okay? You can have $5 in the bank or $500,000 in the bank. None of that has anything to do with your ability to increase your wealth. The only thing that has the ability to increase your wealth is what's right up here, your belief and what's in here. That's it. And it doesn't matter. So you know what I say all the time? I turn off the news. Goodbye. You can talk about recession all you want. It's not my reality. It's just not my reality. And I'm not living with my head in the sand. I have a goal. I have an objective. I have a strategy and I have a plan and I'm moving forward within that plan. And is life an obstacle course? Of course it is. But I am always going to figure out a way around the obstacle. I am never going to allow a voice to tell me that I have to stop or that my reality is not what I believe it to be. And like I said, this has been a theory and a practice that has consistently worked in my life since I was a child. And I give my father credit for this. I have to tell you, when I was a little girl, very little, I remember this. And my dad said to me, "You will always have enough." That's what he said. That's all he said. He said, "Honey, don't worry. You'll always have enough." And I believed him because we believe our dads, right? We believe what they say. And I have to tell you, I have never lost a job. I have never gone without food. Have I had times of feast and famine in my life? Sure. But have I ever had a time when it hasn't been enough? No. And have I ever gotten to a point with whatever I had wasn't enough to move up? No. So what I want to be really clear on is I haven't made perfect choices always. I've learned from my mistakes. I've tried to put those learned habits into practice. But now I know that no matter how little I have or how much I have, it's about what I do with it that determines my future. And that has been something that was literally laid on my heart as a little girl. And I walk through my day every day saying to myself, I have enough. And I'll tell you, you don't need any other luggage. And people carry a lot of baggage with them when it comes to money, right? We carry around with us a huge bag of lack. And if you can put the bag down and pick up a bag that says, I have enough, like literally, if you're one of these visual people, get a bag that says enough on it and carry everything you own, your car keys, your purse, you know.
That would be a good fashion statement.
Yeah, enough. What do you have in your bag? I have enough. And let me tell you, it's a simple thing, but if it's your mindset, enough always grows. Enough is always available. So thank you, Dad in heaven. He really did make my life so much easier, because when I meet adults who really feel like the glass is always half full, or they're on the short end of the stick, or they didn't get, they weren't the right, racial group, or they weren't the right sex, or they didn't come from the right neighborhood, or they didn't get the right education, or they didn't have the right teacher, right? Do you ever talk to kids who are like, oh, I didn't get into that history class, the best history teacher in the school, I didn't get him or her, right? It's like, so, right? But so it always has to be enough. I really want everyone on this call to understand, to pick up that bag that says it's enough. It's enough. We don't all get the same, right? Life isn't equal. But that's what makes it brilliant, because everybody has their own special gift. It's a fabric, right? We weave together our gifts and talents to make it whole. It's not like we're all given the same gingerbread cookie or something like that. It's not cookie cutter, right? Life isn't cookie cutter. So we have to protect what we've been given, right? We've been given things, small or large, we have to protect them. So you have to be, you're thinking about the future, right? So if I'm going to invest in something, do I trust the person? Do they have a long-term history, right? You just don't want to take your money and go, oh, you know what? I heard this is the next greatest thing. I'm just going to plow all my money into XYZ investment, and then all of a sudden it's gone, right? We talk about diversification. You put little bits here. You do your due diligence, right? don't give people anything without collateral. This is like a big thing that wealthy people do, right? My mom used to say, if you're going to share clothes, just assume they won't come back. Like, these are the lessons my parents taught me. and I've always thought
Your
that.
clothes are pretty cool, Carrie.
I tell you, like, but you know, if I loan you a sweater, you know, you're my friend, right? But my assumption is if I give you something, I don't expect it to come back. If it comes back, that's great. So don't give in the idea that you're going to receive it back or it's going to come back in the same condition. If it's that important to you for whatever reason, no judgment, it's probably not something you want to lend without collateral. Also, whatever it is that you're starting with has to stay safe, right? We don't gamble with everything. We start with like our investment, our nest egg, knowing that that always comes back and the profits that we make get reinvested. Okay, that's something that rich people do. They don't touch the principal. They only touch the interest, the product that's made from that nut, because that gets compounded, right? If I have 10 and I make 1, now I have 11, the 11 goes back in. Now I make, say, 10% on 11 is better than making 10% on 10. Does that, you know, it's compounding, right? And consult with the wise people around you, right? They say that your ability to do anything in the world is only as strong as the 5 people that you associate with. So, you know what? Be smart. Another thing my dad always said to me was sit next to the smart kid in class. And if you think you're it, you're not it. Go seek out the wise. Go seek out people who know something that you don't, because we all don't know the same thing. So you may think you know certain things, and that's great, but someone else in the room has a brilliant mind as well, and you probably could benefit from what they have to give. So these are the things we can do to protect ourselves and protect the things that we've created. Also, where you live is really, really important. You know, don't buy the nicest house in the poorest neighborhood, right? You want to buy the poorest house in the nicest neighborhood. I mean, these are some basic real estate facts. It's really hard to sell that house that's like right off the exit of the freeway. We don't do stuff like that. And I think sometimes you have to really think about your dwelling place in a very concrete way. Like, where are you living? Are you sharing that space, right? Are you, do you need 8 bedrooms if there's only 1 person in your house? Or are you bringing in 7 people every weekend for like a fun, you know, like girls' weekend or a camp or something? Like that's great, but really utilize space. You know, one of the things that's a finite resource in the world isn't just time, it's space. And so if we're not maximizing space and all of the resources we have, those dollars are not necessarily put in the right places. So be mindful of the space around you and how you occupy it and what it's being used for. Because just having rooms that store stuff that you don't touch or use or share is more of a burden than a benefit. So, you know, try to own things, try to share what you own, try to be mindful of how you're living in space and how that space is actually contributing, not just to you, right, but to the greater good. Ensuring a future income. This should be woven into the doTERRA thing, because Fred does a beautiful presentation called the 4-Year Career, where he talks about in 4 years building retirement money for a lifetime for multiple generations. That's what doTERRA offers us. That's what we've been able to do. Some other people have been able to do. Right? We got to get that
Fred on here.
Yeah, you got to put that up there. Look, when the students ask me, when do I start, planning for retirement? I said, like now. They're like, well, I'm 14. I said, yeah, sounds great. 14. Start at 14. Because guess what? You want to begin with the end in mind. The end is your retirement, right? Or maybe you don't want to retire. I don't really want to retire. I don't know what that word means. That's like a whole nother topic of conversation that we could have someday. I have like a whole vision about what we do to older people in this world. I don't want to be part of that whole system.
Yeah.
I want to live in great bounty and comfort as my bones start to, get a little bit cracky and I start to slow down. Whenever that happens, I haven't bought into that yet, but maybe it'll happen someday. So I'd like to be able to live in some area that has some comfort, and that means planning. You have to plan for that. And then this is the last thing that I really want to leave people with, and we can talk about other things that I may not have touched on if you want to, but education, right? What Tracy's doing with you here, which is such a beautiful gift, is sharing information. Another thing that my father taught me, see, these are these maxims that I keep in my head, was he said, they can take everything from you, but they can never take your education. You know, and this comes out of a generation that lived through wars, and people were jailed because of their religions or because of their race, or because, you know, my father, my grandparents saw horrific things in the world. And the takeaway that they had was, they can take your stuff, they can take your home, they can take your money, but they can't take what you know away from you. You can always keep that education. Be a lifelong learner, right? Always learn about money. Learn about what money is doing in the world, right? So financial literacy means it's taking refresher courses all the time, right? So when you're pulling out your books and you're reading, you know, your favorite novel, and you're reading your cookbooks, and you're reading your self-help books, and you're reading about, you know, your doTERRA business and all of that, throw in a book about money and what's going on in the world of money today. Be on top of some of that. Get a newsletter from your favorite financial resource. Investment.com is kind of a fun one. The Wall Street Journal, there's Forbes magazine, there's Entrepreneur, like whatever language appeals to you, tap into those brain trusts so that you're constantly learning. Don't buy things that you wouldn't invest in. Think about it that way, right? Because if you're consuming something, someone else is making a profit off of it, you might as well be the one making the profit off of what you consume. So I always say to kids, like, if you like sneakers, then you should buy stock in a sneaker company, because guess what? You're making yourself your own profit, right? So if you're doing doTERRA, right? If you're buying doTERRA, then shouldn't you be making money off of doTERRA? Especially since doTERRA tells you, go ahead, we want to pay you. We want to pay you.
Yeah.
And people walk away.
I know. It's like, you know, and if I had no, you know, if you knew then what you knew now, 2020 hindsight, I would have bought Apple.
Right.
I'm a huge Apple consumer.
Right?
Like, I use Apple products, Apple TV, Apple iPhone, Apple computer, you know, like, had I known, I could have bought it when I was in 7th grade, you know, or had somebody buy it for me in my name, you know.
Sure.
But what did we know? I didn't know. That wasn't part of my education. And I feel like this is so much value. You've given us so much value here, Carrie. Like, I cannot even thank you enough. Like, I am certain we can do multiple series on just this topic, because I think it's like a taboo subject, or it has been in the past. I think more and more there's a movement towards understanding, like, how do I make my money make money for me? How, you know, Tony Robbins has been talking about all the unbreakable and how to work with financial, how to let your money compound interest and like make money for you. And I think that it's very valuable. And it's one of those things like that. It's the one thing that I never felt like up until now, like the last 6 years or so, I feel much more, it's like, it's easier to have a conversation about it. But like, there were things that we didn't like growing up. You don't talk money, you don't talk politics. Don't talk money, don't talk politics, don't talk religion. Those were the three, like, taboo. But like, money is a really important thing. Like, it's important. And, you know, here's the other thing I want to say that I find, and I'd be interested to know what your experience has been, because you work in a boys' school, right? And
I do.
So like, for me, I work a lot with women.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this, there's a, like, women and men, like, it's not a comfortable place for us to talk about it. But I find that men seem to have a better ease of talking about money, and they don't really like, I mean, I guess that's how our brains work, because you know, guys just talk about money and it's dollars and cents. Women talk about money and it's dollars and cents and senses and emotion and heart and physical. And so there's this whole like, What has been your experience with that? What have you experienced when you talk to your colleagues, female colleagues, versus like educating young men and talking to adult men in the business and just in general?
Well, I think you're right. I think that women are afraid to talk about money in a way that makes them either sound greedy or less generous, or that they're focusing on money over people, right? I think we have to learn how to have a neutral conversation. I think men are really good at neutral conversation. And neutral conversation could look just like, I've been analyzing, what our goals are. Remember, we talked at the very beginning, what do wealthy people do, right? So our goal right now may be achieving silver, right? So maybe some of the people on this call are saying, for me to be part of Partnership 250, right, I could get silver and I could reach my $1,500 bonus and I can get a leadership pool. So if I'm setting aside that $250 and I'm going to be making $2,000 a month, then it's smarter for me not to touch that money for something else, right? So here's a scenario that comes along. Your sister comes over and says, you know what, hey, could you give me some money because my kid's doing a fundraiser for this, right? And the female reaction is, I'm going to take money out of my doTERRA investment and I'm going to give it to my sister because right now she has an immediate need. And if I'm a good sister, I'm going to offer it to that need. What a man will do is they'll say, wait a minute, if I invest my $250 and I get the $2,000 out, I have a lot more money to offer my sister than if I rob from myself, right? Mm-hmm. If I rob from myself and say I'm going to give it to my sister, that's what you've done because you've broken the trust you have between you and your budget, mm-hmm. right? And look, I'm not even saying your sister has like an emergency medical situation. I would still say you don't take investment dollars away from an investment and give it to a consumer need because you basically fired the dollar. That dollar was in a job making money and you fired it and you've spent it. And once it's spent, it's dead. It's gone. You're much better off leveraging that money, keeping that money going and putting it to work and taking the profit, even if it's delayed, and helping your sister in another way.
Well, it's like what you said before about the interest, like the successful people only have the interest, right. Not the principal.
Right.
Which that 250 is the interest, is the principal.
Is the principal. Your 250 every month is the principal. You cannot touch that. It right. has to go in first because it creates the return and you don't have to work for it, right? You're not actually putting time into a grind so that money comes out. It's not hours for dollars. It's investment. And all wealthy people make money off investments. They don't make money off of work. None of them. You know why wealthy people work? Like, why do the uber wealthy people work in the world? It's not to make money. Their money makes money. The reason that uber wealthy people work in the world is because they know they have something to contribute. And they're constantly giving, and believe it or not, they're constantly giving to society. Now, for the people that are really good, they're giving great things, right? For the people who are a little not so good, we don't know what they're giving. So, it's not a perfect world, but the motivation is always the same. Like people will say to me like, well, why would, people who own big corporations like, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, like, why would he go to work every day? He doesn't go to work for the money, right? They don't work for the money. And that's a wealthy mindset. People ask me all the time, why are you teaching high school? It's not for the money. I don't need this money.
It goes back to, and you're using the word why, and you talked about Simon Sinek earlier. He said the amazing TED Talk. For those of you that haven't seen it, you must watch it. Simon Sinek, Sinek. You can look for the why. Like if you look for his TED Talk on people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Why you do it. Yeah.
And why is the motivator. The why is the motivator. And I think that,
this is once you read that one, you have to read this one because this is the whole premise of your series, which is community, 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 trust, the circle of safety, why people become great leaders and why people are followed by individuals, and what it takes to build trust. I mean, to me, this is a life changer. I make all my students read this.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a few of his books that I've been like are in my queue on Audible, and that's one of them. So
yeah, definitely add it to your
because I think that's awesome. There's so many more questions I have. There was another one about the women, and the money. I'm sure it'll come up for me, and if I remember it, I can always post it in the bottom. So, in the thread. And I do want to say this, like, for those of you watching, if you have questions for me or Carrie, please post them in the thread in the comments below this video. We will be checking. I will tag Carrie in there. We will both be answering. Like, it is real. This is a conversation. This is the conversation starter. We've just opened up the can, like, really, because this is, I mean, just even hearing you talk and share, this is going to be there will be more on this topic to come for sure. Not just with Carrie, with a few other people. This is a conversation that I think is really important, because the money story holds us back from really stepping into our purpose and our ability to have a positive impact in this world. And I think so much because we think money is like a separate thing. It has to be a separate conversation. It's not. It's intertwined. It is part of everything. It is currency. Money is currency. Currency is energy. And it's no different than breathing. Breathing in, you take it in. Breathing out, you give it out. Like, it is the same thing. And it's hard to shift that way of looking at it. And I think part of it is that we don't feel like we have all the information. I think that was part of the inspiration for me starting these conversations to begin with. It's like, so often sitting at my desk behind my laptop, I'm watching social media, seeing everyone's highlight reels, and you think, oh my God, maybe I don't have all the tools I need. Maybe I don't have all the information I need. But then you can't ask anybody, because heaven forbid you ask somebody, then they're going to think you're stupid, you don't know anything, like you're uneducated. And it's like, these are not things that we're being taught. And as women particularly, we're not being taught, we're not being conditioned, or it's not being modeled for us. Now more and more I'm seeing women step forward and modeling it, but there's still like this taboo conversation that I think we have to just set to the side once and for all. I think that if we can have conversations around money that are basically like, here's the calculations, here's what we've got, here's how much more I need to make, here's where I'm going to spend it, like, and let it be easy. I mean, if we could talk about money the way we talk about chocolate, I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
You know, I think if we could get to that point, it'll be a very happy day, you know. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover today. But there is one last question, if I can. Do we have time for it? Yeah, real quick. Like, what do you see? What's the difference between an investment mindset and a consumer mindset? You mentioned that before.
Yeah. So this is the key to building wealth. Absolutely. If you can't get out of a consumer mindset, you're never going to build wealth. And there's a very, very easy question that Robert Kiyosaki put out that I'm just going to steal. I'm not going to steal it. I'm going to attribute it to him because it's his line. It's not mine. And that is, when someone asks you about a great opportunity, is your first reaction to say, ooh, how can I afford, or how can I make this happen? Or do you immediately go to, I can't afford this. I can't do this. I don't have the time, right? I'm too busy. If those are the words that are coming out of your mouth on a regular basis, I don't have, I'm too, then you are absolutely consuming. You consume all of your time, right? I'm too busy. That's consumption of time, right? I'm too stressed. That's consumption of energy, right? Energy is a limitless resource, just like love, right? You don't say to the people around you, I can't hug you today. I'm just out of love, right? We don't say that to people, especially as women. It's like, oh, honey, I'll hug you. Did you have a bad day? I love you. Do we ever limit love? Are we taught to limit love? No. So why do we limit things like our time and our other resources and our money and our finances? It doesn't make any sense. They're just resources, just like love. So step into, you have all the time you need to do everything that you want, right? So how do you get into an investor mindset? By knowing that you have time to invest, by knowing you have energy to invest, by knowing you have money to invest. Never in any of the finance books I've ever read did they say for you to create wealth, you have to start with X amount of dollars. Never, never. There's even the story about a penny. If you took a penny and it compounded over time, I mean, maybe you could post that in the comment section. It's like this ridiculous amount of money at the end of, the day that you would get. But consumers eat everything, okay? Consumption is about taking and destroying, right? Think about eating, right? We eat an apple and we chew it up and it's great. I love apples, right? But we chew them up and we obliterate them and then we throw them into our stomachs with all the acid and we break it apart and we suck the nutrition out of it and then we get rid of the waste. And what's gone at the end of the day? Everything, right? We've sucked it out and it's gone.
And tomorrow we need to consume again.
Yeah, we got to go back, right? I need another apple. I need another apple. But if you had taken the seeds from that apple and planted an orchard, right? If you'd taken the seeds from that apple and planted an orchard, you'd have apples forever. Yeah. Because every time you picked an apple off the tree, guess what? The tree would reproduce without you doing anything.
Yeah. I love that distinction.
If you invest your time, it will reproduce. If you invest your love, it will reproduce. If you invest your friendship, if you invest your passion, your energy, your ideas, they reproduce. If you consume them, if you lock them away, you have nothing to give. So I'm all about making bags that say enough on them. And I want
that we're going to have to market that.
I think we have to do this, right? So that as women, we know we're enough, you are absolutely enough and you are more than enough.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this stems from conditioning. I know it. I know it. It's like generational conditioning programming. It's all, a lot of it is just up here, as you said, like, especially around this topic, around self-worth, around enoughness, and around money. It all just goes together. And I think that as a collective group of women in this species, we need to change that paradigm. And so I hope that this is going to start to set, I hope that this video, this interview, this conversation has helped shift that for you, So those of you watching, and Carrie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share this with me and with all of our listeners and anybody out there. Again, get into the conversation on Facebook. We're going to talk more about mindset and myth and money with Lorinda Walker, who's coming on with us soon. So keep your eye out for that. I'm really excited to have her. We were going back and forth on Facebook Messenger and like brainstorming about what else can we talk. I was like, we have to keep it under an hour.
All right, you're gonna have to set a timer because what they have so much. Remember, they have more than enough of conversation.
That's exactly right. So, and I'm going to be I'll do my best to be as conscious as I can about your time commitments as well. I know that your time is a valuable resource, and I'm grateful that you all tuned in to watch us, and always looking for your ideas, what you want to learn more about, what you want to hear more about, what questions you have, what conversations you want to have. Let us know, put them in the posts below this video, and thank you so much for watching and being a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Carrie.
Bye.